Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We are back here on YouTube and we have another episode of the K2N vlog. This week we got more downwind footage, and so at the end we have like 12 full minutes of downwinding, both in an OC2 and a Surfski. And I know a lot of people that watch this channel only do one discipline or the other, so I'm actually gonna have two different timestamps to make sure that you can jump ahead to watch what you wanna watch. This has worked out great because we had the downwind footage from last week, and then this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I was able to go back to back. There was a race here in Florida on the East Coast going on at the same time, and looking at the weather forecast, it looked like that would be kind of a washing machine, not fun experience. And on our coast here on the west side, we were able to line up some really great downwinders instead. So I had to kind of pick and choose of going to an event for the sake of racing or having a ton of fun surfing. And more importantly than the downwinding and the fun, a big shout out to all of the significant others that helped shuttle us to the start line and pick us up at the finish line. It saves a lot of time having a person that is not doing the downwinder in charge of the vehicles and picking you up and dropping you off. Especially for myself, I drive quite a ways down to the Tampa area in order to do this, and going from the finish line back to the start line to get your vehicles and then making the drive home, it extends things out multiple hours, right? So it's very nice that people were able to take some time out of their day to ensure that we were having a lot of fun out on the water. So thank you to all of our chauffeurs and the taxi system. We are trying to build the infrastructure, make it a paid position, but we're still working on gathering the funds for that. So because we have so much downwind footage, I'm not going to spend a lot of time with our talking point this week. And one of the things that was just on my mind this week is competitiveness being an important trait in order to make progress forward. One of the first times that I ever was faced with this idea that being competitive is such a crucial component in making steps forward in progress is trying to explain fitness to a child, right? Making them do jumping jacks and push-ups and running and all these things. And one time I was working in a personal training capacity with a child, probably 7 or 8 years old, and they stop their activity and they look at me and they say, why? Why am I doing this? And I say, oh, it makes you stronger and more fit and you're gonna be healthier. But why? Why do I care about that? Well, if you're more fit than the person that you compete against in whatever sport, right? In this case, I believe it was tennis, then you're gonna be able to beat them and win. But I don't really care about winning. And so in that conversation, it dawned on me that if you don't have this reason to get better, there's no urgency to take these steps forward. Getting better at paddling and your personal fitness, it kind of sucks because it's difficult and it's hard and you have to allocate a lot of time and energy and resources to it. You have to navigate mentally and physically through a plane of existence that is pretty difficult. It's much easier to just kick back with your feet up and relax. So for myself, I've always been very competitive. I've always wanted to be on the winning edge of a situation as opposed to losing. And in those losses that I've suffered over my life, I have always regrouped to try and be better for the next time. I've never been content with losing, and so then it's back to the drawing board. If I could be stronger or more fit, or if I could be more technically savvy, I could then go back and win. I'm in the position where I lose a lot more than I win, so I'm constantly going back to this drawing board, and it's one of the things that helps me get up in the morning, or stay late after practice, or to focus on an idea that I really don't want to address. Being competitive and wanting to win, not being okay with losing, can be the major difference in two different people, one being very good and one never making progress. If you're okay with losing and getting beat every single time, there is no fire that ignites in you to force you to take these steps forward. You'll just continue to do the same thing over and over and over again because it doesn't matter to you. There's nothing wrong with this, but it's just something that you want to kind of address within your training and your race performances is if you're okay with losing, it's very, very hard to get the internal willpower necessary to really take those steps forward, because it's never going to come easy. It's always going to be arduous and difficult, and you have to kind of decide for yourself if you want to take those steps forward. This is one of the things that makes high-end racers so cool to watch, is because they've committed their life to it. They don't want to lose, and their full-time existence is focused on these ideas and persevering and taking these major steps forward. And for us closer to the recreational or semi-serious side of things, we can look at that and understand that we do need to make some of these sacrifices to push forward and be better, and they are built on the backbone of not wanting to lose. So it's just something to keep in mind as you approach your racing season this year. Thank you all so much for checking out the vlog series. We have a new giant whiteboard because we have so many YouTube members now that my little chalkboard doesn't work anymore, so we'll be able to list everybody behind us here in the future videos. If there are any topics or things that you would like to see discussed, feel free to leave a comment or send an email that can be found in the description. Thank you again. I hope you enjoy our double downwind footage here in Florida, and we'll see you all next week for the next K2N vlog episode. All right, everybody, welcome to Indian Rocks Beach here in the St. Petersburg area here in Pinellas County. One of the nice things about the south wind is we have almost no ground swell, so it was very easy to jump in the boat, especially in the two. It's hard coordinating and getting out typically, but here it was very simple. This is the swell, so we have to go kind of sideways or into the swells a little bit, and this gives us an idea of how big they are as well. There's a little bit of east in the swell pushing us towards, or it's west, excuse me, pushing us towards land. And so we have to go pretty far from shore, probably about quarter mile, half mile. But you can see the OC2 getting kind of beat up here. And this is my club member, Ray. This is his first time surfing in the Gulf of Mexico. And here we are surfing. This is the first wave of the day that we caught. So the first wave in the Gulf. You can call it the Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico. I've been calling it Gulf of Mexico since I was a kid, so I'm probably going to be saying that. I typically just refer to it as the Gulf. But yeah, here we are catching the first big wave together. Very cool. The OC2 is much longer, and there's a lot more momentum. This is a pretty big wave. This is in the thumbnail for today. And we're able to really barrel from swell to swell. So there's just so much momentum that a solo craft doesn't present. And out in these swells, it's between 2.5 and 3.5 foot tall out here. And I'm pointing to the next swell that we're kind of aiming at here. And then we're staying behind it, giving it a little push, and then boom, we catch it. So it's all in the timing here, and trying to point out some of the things to look for as we're doing this. I'm steering in seat 1, calling huts and paddling. So that's kind of like being in a solo boat, but just trying to coordinate with seat 2. And having the front camera, I usually don't have the front camera. I usually have it on the rear mount. And this is cool because you can see the waves appear behind us, and you can see how the wave influences the back half of the vessel and how we're surfing on it, right? It creates this hill and we start gliding down it. And then at this point, as we're gliding down, we start paddling to push into the next big swell, and water's shooting all over the place. It's a lot of fun. My back camera actually got incredibly wet. So most of the footage that I have on that, it looks terrible. And the front camera stays relatively clean. So we're able to get all this great footage. You can see the swells developing in front of us. We start pushing, they're pretty big there. And we have all this momentum to push into it, and you can see the big payoff here. This is really great, exciting footage. And it was a lot of fun to bring a club member out here from Hernando. And we've done a couple bay runs, but it's nothing like this. This was definitely the next level up. Our average speed out here was about 8.5 miles an hour. We could have probably pushed a little bit harder and got closer to the 9s, but getting some of the small swells to cooperate with the large boat was kind of messing up our speed. On the big swells, we would catch one and run them back to back to back. But there were these little lull periods where there weren't really big swells. We'd come to a stop, and it was real hard to get the boat back up to speed. But when the surfing was good, it was good. So here's us again, pushing into another giant swell here. Ray's readjusting, leaning left. You can see the AMA goes super underwater. In a 1, it's much easier to manage because I can just lean to the side and lift it up. But with 2 of us, it's real easy for us to both lean left and just completely submerge the AMA. So that's why the front end of an AMA is pointy and angled up, and then the back of it is a little bit wider. So when it does go underwater, it can pierce through that water and it can lift back up to the surface. If it were to plow through the water too much, it would rip your yakus out of the boat, and that's no good. So it's designed with the idea that it will be submerged every now and then. But yep, looking at my watch, checking out the time. I think that was right at a 1 mile mark. And it's nice because like you can feel like you catch a swell, so you can kind of stop paddling, right? So you can, you know, make adjustments. You can call your huts. But that's one swell that pushes into another and into the next. These south winds are awesome. These are always my favorite kind of runs. It's nice and warm out as well. And here's Patrick McCarthy, who was with us the last time that we went out, I believe. Oh no, he was not. No, it was me and Chad the last time. So Patrick's out surfing his Draco. Looks really good here. That low volume and being able to push through the swells and stuff was really working with him. Probably not the most ideal boat to be out in the conditions with, but he was definitely making it work, and we're here on the same wave together, which was awesome. And we're able to connect some runs as we start to get around him here. And this is when I think we connect 4 or 5 swells here. So we're already on one pretty big one. Now that we have all this momentum generated, we're gonna be able to convert this into a bunch of other swells. And you can see he kind of disappears in the background as we start the surfing process. The wave behind us is high enough that it's super hard to see him. But if you look really closely, you might be able to see the blue dot of his ama. And we're still connecting runs and just kind of barreling through one to the next. You can see the high points and low points in front of us, and the nose going underwater, being in the air, and just kind of going through that shift. But yeah, it was nonstop. I mean, it was great. I mean, even here I had to lean back. It felt like the nose was going to go completely underwater. And we're in a Gemini, right? So I mean, it's a long, buoyant nose, and seeing that sucker go underwater shows how, you know, big the wave is behind you and how high it's lifting you up. So overall, an excellent run. We had a ton of fun. One of the nice things about having different skills in your inventory is on the second day, the wind continues to blow for the next 24 hours essentially. And so the second day, the swells are actually a bit larger. And so being able to switch into a Surfski and go out there and manage those conditions with a no ama and 2 blades in a single craft definitely yields to having more fun. And that's us, day 2. This is on Sunday. Jesse Lischuk in the front there. He timed it perfect. Look at him. He easily goes over and boom, I get slapped by a wave. And guess what? That slows me down. And that gives time for the next set to present itself and hit me right in the chest. I thought I was going to end up back on land after getting hit there. Brings me back to a stop, and I'm thinking, oh God, the next one's gonna break on me. I just make it over before it breaks, and Jesse's already freaking gone. He timed it perfect, flew away, and we're over here. Me and Patrick were fighting for our lives. Patrick switched into a Surfski, and then we're all in Surfskis today. Jesse's in the Vega. I'm in the Vega Flex, which is an inch wider than the Vega that he is in. I don't mind going in the intermediate boats. It's my only good surfing Surfski right now. My elite boat is primarily designed for flat water. And we start to get the run started. We catch a swell, both going towards each other. And I told Jesse here that I just wanted to make sure he was in the video. We let Patrick go ahead just right at the start, and we ended up getting up to him. So he went from the Draco into his Evo. He misses that swell, and he might not know this, but I gave it 30 power strokes so I could pummel through that little swell and push into the next one. And then from there, start converting them one to the next. Water's a little bit less clear, and then it starts to get a little bit more blue here. Jesse is a hell of a paddler. If you've ever raced against him, he is a superstar in the kayaking world. Out here in the bump, he was going toe-to-toe with me, man. I was working so hard trying to stay with him, partly because I just wanted him in the video and get some of that footage. I have this edited, so it seems like we're both, you know, going back and forth and we're even, but there was times he pulled ahead of me and actually stopped to let me catch back up. So he was super, super fast here. But his ability to push through the swells was definitely there. And, you know, just converting from one to the next on, you know, each swell. I was able to hit a lifetime PR on the first kilometer, 3 minutes, 34 seconds. And then the first mile was 5 minutes and 58 seconds, just a little over 10 miles an hour. This is Jesse getting ahead of me, and I catch 3 or 4 waves just to get ahead of him here. Then I use the momentum to catch and carry and drop into the next one and just go from there. So the swells are a little bit more confused. They're a bit larger and steeper as well. And then here's a good example of how steep they are. He's in front of this wave, and I'm in the wave that's right behind him trying to catch it. And I use that to go around, and I continue to push and use that momentum to drop into the next set and get kind of next to him. This is a big swell developing. I stay behind it, give it a big push. He's still in front of it. And then that converts into another swell here that's developing in the front. You can see that high point showing itself. You almost lose sight of land as that one builds up, and then using that one to slide down into the next set. But yeah, it's a lot of fun looking at the swells. The vantage point and the camera angle, it always, you know, we all know when we use a GoPro, it makes the ocean look smaller, but these swells are much closer to 4 feet or higher in a lot of scenarios. There is one spot where I catch a wave so steep that the tail is over my head, and you can actually see the tail behind my head with my GoPro. So my GoPro is on my forehead, so it can see like the top of my head, but it can't see behind me. So seeing the tail literally above my head for a moment is exhilarating stuff, right? I knew when it happened that it was like one of the steepest waves I'd ever caught. I didn't go particularly fast doing it. I just knew that when I leaned back, you can kind of feel like, wow, the tail is definitely over my head. But yeah, just converting the run, giving them a good push, trying to time it better. The swells are big. You can see this is where it's starting to build up here. We have an incoming tide at this point, which really stacks up the waves. And the wave looks like it's like a mile long, and it feels like it too. And you really got to push to stay ahead of it. And then once you're on it, it feels like you're sliding down the side of a mountain. And in a sense you are, right? It's like a mountain of water. And then just converting that into the next one, the swells kind of lead into one, you rocket from one and push into the next one. So the ability to keep converting them into speed is one of the best feelings. Jesse caught back up to me after I had got around him. Really cool having the 360 footage because he's to my side, but I'm able to see him very well with the camera angle, so I don't turn my head to get him in shot. Because I probably wouldn't be able to. I have to kind of fixate on the waves that are in front of me. So he goes to the right and he catches a big swell on that side. And then I'm able to kind of sneak around on some of these waves that are developing a little further out. I end up getting ahead. His Vega's bailer was having some issues, and he took in a lap full of water and it wasn't clearing out of the boat. So he was kind of concerned catching some of the bigger waves that, you know, the risk of sinking was presenting itself. And it can be scary. There's a lot of times here where, you know, my boat gets swamped and I'm waist deep in water. Like the entire cockpit fills up completely with water. Catching a wave and that Venturi effect will suck the water out, but the bailer has to be operational and open to make that happen. So I'm able to jump to the head or jump to the front here, and a lot of swells. You can see it's starting to really develop here, a lot more texture and contour. The first kilometer and the first mile are actually my fastest. 1, because I push the hardest. 2, my muscles are the freshest. And 3, when it's smaller, it's easy to connect all the runs and kind of plow over them. With these larger ones, you really have to time it because you can't continuously muscle into each one of them without just overtaxing your muscular system. So you have to be a lot more tactical, and as an effect, it can make you a bit slower if you do have those moments where you do slow down. Here's the steepest wave of the day. It doesn't look like much here in the camera, but right there when that tail drops, or the nose drops, the tail lifts up behind me. And that is it for the footage. I hope you guys enjoy seeing all the Florida downwind stuff that we have here. Having the 360 cameras this year makes the footage pretty exciting to watch, and hopefully it's educational for you guys. It's hard to understand what you're seeing unless you are familiar with waves and have been out in similar conditions, but kind of seeing these high points and low points. GoPro updated their software where I can't add the speedometer anymore, which kind of helped show how fast we were going. And that run there, I was about 9.5 miles for the first half, and the second half we don't talk about because I was getting a little tired. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. We'll see you all next week for the next vlog episode.